Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Determinants of Her Health podcast, where we explore the systems that affect women's health and how we can shape them. I'm your host, Allie Felker, and today I am joined by Michelle Vande Hey. Michelle is a conscious leadership and trauma-sensitive coach, author, speaker, and advocate. She helps changemakers and caregivers rediscover who they are, reclaim their joy, and their own power. As a holistic life coach, trauma-sensitive yoga facilitator, and host of the Love Your Life on Purpose podcast, Michelle guides leaders to break free from self-sacrifice and burnout to reconnect with who they are outside of what they do. Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to talk about this topic. It's something that I feel like I've just kind of scratched the surface of understanding, and I think that this is something that a lot of people are not aware of, they don't know about, and I think it's going to be really helpful to have this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me and asking me to be on. It'll be a great conversation.
For sure. So let's just start with kind of telling us who you are and what happened when you were 15 years old.
So I'm Michelle Vande Hey, and like you shared what I do professionally. And so when I was about 15 years old, um, I was not getting a period. And so then they started doing different like testing things on me to kind of figure out what's going on. Um, and I remember there being like some of these different things that came up that I was like, what? Do I have that? Like just these weird, strange things. The other strange thing that was happening at the time is um, I was becoming the tallest person in my family. Um,
Mm.
my parents are both the shortest in their family, so my dad's 5'9", my mom's 5'7". And then my older sister was like 5'7" at the time as well. And I was outgrowing all of them too, so it was kind of this like strange, like what is really happening? And I honestly don't really remember what different testing I did. I'm assuming it was mostly like blood tests. But they came to find out that I have something called androgen insensitivity syndrome, which is not like that's like the medical term for it. But now, how it's like more commonly known is an intersex variation. Um, and I mean, and it was like, I mean, at the time it was like, oh, so I have XY chromosomes, but had been raised a girl, assigned female at birth, like all these things, and just like totally confused, just like very confused, and um, questioned a lot of like, am I a boy? Does this mean
Mm.
I'm a boy now? Like, and I even remember having thoughts of like, well, I like boys, so if I like boys and I'm a boy, does that make me gay even though I feel like a
Mm.
girl? Like all of these things that like you're just like, I don't know. And this was back in like very early 2000s. So like the internet was pretty much non-existent at that point, you weren't Googling things or anything like that. So it was just like whatever the doctor said. And then, I was kind of brought up as like, you respect your elders, you don't really question things, and you just trust
Mm.
people blindly, sort of, especially adults. So I didn't really ask questions. I was just like, I just kind of did what I was told, and that was it.
Yeah. And was the information presented to you like kind of strictly in like a medical context, or were doctors kind of giving you resources for kind of processing this and maybe like the mental health aspects that might come along with it?
I don't remember getting any mental health sort of help with it. Um, it felt very like hush hush, like basically like there's nothing wrong with you, but also like you probably don't want to talk about this or like don't tell people. Um, I mean, luckily my parents, I had three really close friends at the time, and so my parents were like, you should tell your really close friends, but then
Mm.
like other than that, like you probably don't want to tell anyone, which honestly, like if I think about my daughter, it's like I would maybe tell her something similar,
Hmm.
although she'd probably also be in therapy and, and all these other things that like, and especially back then, like we're not option, like quote unquote options is like you don't go to therapy. Uh,
Yeah.
so like, I mean, all the stuff that I questioned, my parents didn't know I was questioning all that stuff. I just kept it all to myself.
I feel like that was also so much of like the generation we were raised in. Something happened to me also when I was 15 that looking back, I could have used a lot of therapy for. And I went to a church counselor who, was as helpful as she could be, but just did like the one counseling session. And then my family was like, you seem good to go.
Yep.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, all right, cool. Check the box, made sure she's not going to lose it. And I think that's something that our generation has really done a good job of like normalizing therapy and normalizing like let's get mental health
Yeah.
resources to people. I wonder what it would be like if a 15-year-old were, told that they were intersex today. Like I wonder if they would also be given more resources. Did you feel like that there was a sort of toll on your mental health? I know you talked about like this identity piece. Was that something that you sort of had to process through a lot?
I think I just got really good at ignoring myself. And
Mm,
so part of like the medical piece of it for me, and I know this is common for many others, because like even like androgen and sensitivity syndrome has a spectrum. Um, but so one of the pieces of it is like I had like internal gonads or internal testicles. So they were like in my abdomen. Because one part of this is like basically we have these testicles and like we have XY chromosomes, but our bodies don't process testosterone like it would in a typical male. So we develop female. Um, for the most part. And so one of the medical things that they said, which just being in different like communities and support groups now and learning more about it, is they said that I needed to have them removed because of like the risk of cancer. And
oh,
so I had them removed, which means then I didn't have like hormone producing anything. So then I had to be put on estrogen. And
mm,
so I've been on estrogen my whole life.
mm,
Um, but the more I'm learning from people, especially other like adults, is that like the risk of cancer is so low that it's really not necessary. And to
mm.
me, I feel like that's part of this piece of even though you don't see it, but like the medical professionals know that they're there. It's like we want to make you as quote unquote normal as possible, so they remove them. Um, and maybe
That's
that's not,
interesting. Yeah.
but like I think it's like a big piece of this, especially when we think of all the stuff that's going on with like gender affirming care, is like all of these bills and things that are happening to like not allow trans people to have these surgeries that they're wanting and things like that. There's these whatever, like the side notes or like the exceptions for intersex children. And the
Oh.
thing, the where it's really concerning, like for me, it all worked out. Like it wasn't a huge major surgery. Like was in the hospital overnight, whatever. I've been on estrogen my whole life. It didn't have any really negative side effects for me. Um, but there are sometimes there's babies that are born and it's a little more obvious that
Mm,
they have this difference because their genitals look different.
yeah.
And so then they do these surgeries to like quote unquote fix genitals for how they think this should be a boy or a girl. And then a lot of times like they quote unquote fix them so they look normal, but then there can be challenges and like things that aren't great about them later in life. Um, and just other like complications that can happen from it, that these surgeries are very unnecessary. They're really just to make kids look normal.
It's so interesting because I think that really speaks to what our culture sort of values as you are in the normal box, in the preferred box, and how gender affirming care is fine if it's affirming you to what we prefer, and not necessarily, yeah, just not not doing the intervention, letting the person grow up, and then also letting the person have the autonomy to make the choice too of what they choose to be. Instead, it's like, okay, well, we're your parents and we're going to decide this. That's really, or the doctors who are maybe influencing it too. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And like, so this is like stuff that I just thought growing up, it's like, oh, if you have AIS, then like everyone's like me. I didn't realize there was so many different variations of it, and that
Yeah.
there are infants having these pretty much like unnecessary surgeries. They're
Mm.
essentially like a cosmetic surgery, but they're deemed necessary so they can look normal.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is so interesting and frankly, like disturbing.
Yeah.
I have a question. Would you say, this is a point of clarification, I kind of nerd out on language a little bit. Would
Yeah.
you say you have intersex or that you are intersex?
I would say that it's funny, I never thought about that. I would say I am intersex and I have androgen sensitivity syndrome.
Yeah, I like that because I think that that speaks to, you know, so obviously you and I have talked about this before. My first child was stillborn. I really hate it when people call him a stillborn.
Mm,
But when people say he was stillborn, it points to like that's the medical thing that happened to him. But with intersex, it's like that doesn't have to be characterized as this is a medical thing. It can be an identifier because there's nothing inherently wrong with it.
right.
Whereas the identifier of, I have this quote unquote condition, is something that isn't necessarily an identity that someone would take on. It's something that you have just like anybody else would have. But the intersex part is the part that I think that as a society we have to embrace and say like this is an identity that we accept as being a form, like no one's normal. We're all,
Yeah.
we're all on this spectrum together. We're all figuring it out. And to say that intersex goes into a group that is abnormal, I think is kind of the problem. I think that if we embrace that to say like it's not that you have intersex, but you are intersex is something that I think is important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think it's because, yeah, like intersex isn't a medical term. So
Mm,
it is more of like a social term as far as I'm aware. Because yeah, like even the like support groups, I guess you would call them, that I'm in is like there there's like partial androgen insensitivity syndrome, there's complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, and then like even within those, it can present in different ways for
mm.
different people.
Can people say become like are people deemed completely infertile if they have androgen sensitivity syndrome?
It depends. So like for
Mm.
me, so I was born without a uterus, ovaries, fallopian tubes, like all that. So
Yeah.
like I don't have any of those things, which is why I wasn't getting a period, right?
Yeah.
So there are many like that. I actually met someone in person that has an intersex variation, but she gets a period.
Oh.
Um, she was still told that she couldn't have kids, and we met through adoption, so that
Oh.
kind of makes sense. So I don't know her whole situation, but it's like obviously like just because you can have a period does not necessarily mean you
Totally.
can have kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's so many different variations.
Okay, so I want to jump back to, how you kind of navigated this when you were in your teens. You get this information from the doctors, your parents kind of check the box to make sure that you're good. What was that experience like and how did your parents kind of handle getting this news and then parenting you through this experience.
Yeah, I mean, so I had a surgery to remove the gonads, which I think I
Hmm.
talked about.
Yeah.
And then it was like that was done. I got on my estrogen and like did all the medical things. So it was kind of like, okay, like Michelle is fixed, so we don't have to kind of talk about it anymore, besides
Mm.
going to medical appointments. So in some ways, I appreciated that because it was like I just felt like a normal kid again. I was a
Yeah.
normal girl. I was still playing volleyball, which I loved, and like really playing all the sports that I loved. Um, and felt like I could just like be myself. But then I felt like because I was being treated like everyone else, then when I was coming home and getting in my thoughts and in my head about all these things that I was questioning, I also felt like I didn't have anyone to talk
Mm.
to because it was like I just felt like people wanted me to be normal, so I was just normal. And if I talked about the things that were upsetting me or that I was questioning, that it would like that it wouldn't be okay. So
Mm.
I kept those things to myself and like really protected the comfort of people around me and just like kept being like quote unquote normal. And I mean like so I went on to play college volleyball and like I don't I don't think I ever like I never told any of my teammates because to me it was like again like it didn't really matter and
Yeah.
like and it's like I don't know how it comes up in conversations.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it was just like I hadn't heard the term intersex until I was in my 30s.
Oh, interesting.
I hadn't even heard that term until I don't know if I saw it on the internet somewhere, like or on social media or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's me. That's weird. Like I never heard that term before.
Yeah.
And so even that term I feel like is a newer term or is being more well known that a lot of people don't know what it is or haven't heard of it. And so in college, yeah, it was like I didn't really tell anyone because I didn't think to tell anyone because I got so used to just like being normal and pretending I was normal. And like when my friends would complain about having their periods, I would just be like, yeah, that sucks. And like go along with it, but be like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, I think that really shows how, I think on the one hand, like your parents didn't pathologize it, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, there's this pathology surrounding like who you are as a person. I think that's like something that is really cool. But yeah, on the other hand, kind of goes back to that like, okay, we sent her to the counselor the one time, like she's fixed, she's good. And I think even to say like, okay, you had the surgery, therefore you are fixed is a really interesting part to that as well. Kind of points back to that like, okay, you've come into our acceptable form of normal and therefore like we don't have to worry about this anymore. So yeah, that is really interesting. I as someone who's complained about her period for many years, I think I would have had you said like, oh, I just don't get one, I would probably have been like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
How do I get that? Like, yeah. But where do you think like education is lacking in this? Like, is this something that like more people should know about in school? Is this something that like colleges is this something that social media should be like the sort of main educator for this? Or where do you think that the education is missing here?
Honestly, I think the biggest is in medical school,
Mm,
because
wow.
I have a friend who's a doctor, and she like when I like shared my Wen story, and then we got to meet in person. Like she lives in California, and I live in Wisconsin, and we were at an event together and she was asking me about it and she's like, "Oh, okay, I because she didn't know what the intersex term was." And then when I told her it's androgen insensitivity syndrome, she's like, "Oh, I have heard of that." But she's like, "Tell me more because I don't really know a lot about it." I mean, she's also like a cardiologist or something, which it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense. But what I also learned, and this goes back to this like I just trusted the adults and the doctors and was just like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, so I do it. When my gynecologist retired, I got a new gynecologist. And I find it very interesting that my first gynecologist was a male and my second is a female.
Hmm.
And my first appointment with my new gynecologist, she's like, "Why are you getting pap smears?" I'm like, "I don't know. Aren't you just supposed to get them?" And she's like, "You don't have a cervix. It's like a cervical cancer screening. You shouldn't be getting them." And I'm like, "I've been getting them since I've been friggin' 15 years old."
Oh my God.
And this was like, I mean, so I've been getting them for like 15 to 20 years. And no one told me I didn't. And it's like, why? But I didn't think to ask. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
think to
Why,
ask
why would you?
because
Yeah.
why would I? It was just like, I just do what I'm supposed to do. You show
Yeah.
up to the
They
doctor,
tell me to come every 3 years or so, and so that's what we do. Oh my
yes.
gosh.
And I mean, the other piece of that is every time I go to the doctor, it's starting to get better in certain doctor's offices.
Hmm.
I get asked by the nurse, they do your blood pressure and all the things, and then they ask like, when was your last period? And then I'm like,
Oh
I
yeah.
haven't had one, and they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, is there not a chart that you're looking at right
Yeah.
now? And like, even when I was going to the gynecologist for however many years, I would hate going to the gynecologist for the fact that they would ask me about my period, and I'm like, do I really have to explain this to you? Like, how do you not know this
Yeah.
about me? I have a freaking chart.
Yeah.
Like, is there not some place to like note that don't ask her because she doesn't get a period? Like, so all of this like little stuff that's like, it's very traumatizing in a way because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's very vulnerable for me to have to, especially when I was younger, like 18, 19, 20, like that's still young and it's like you're still learning who you are and to have to be like ask this question and then feel like you're a freak again because they're like, "What? What do you mean you don't get a period?" Because they're used to people having an answer to it. Um like so the medical community I think needs to be more educated on it for sure. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that's lacking, and I think there are more things happening with like social media, especially with all of the like anti-trans stuff because
Mm.
it definitely directly affects intersex people. um And kind of like I mentioned before, is like these caveats and these like gender affirming care, like these anti-gender affirming care things.
Yeah.
It's these caveats for intersex people because we want intersex people to be normal. Like that kind of stuff is like
Yeah.
it's so yeah. So like I feel like on the social media, like that kind of stuff, I feel like it's getting better because there's just more awareness of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I
I wish it was in the high school textbooks. Like, I mean, and
okay.
it might be now. I don't know. I was homeschooled, so I definitely did not get a thorough education in sex ed. But I think that this should be a little section of like, hey, for the most part, you're born with either female genitalia or male genitalia, but a certain like how much of the population is intersex? I've seen different numbers, but what
It's
would you say?
something like I feel like it's like something like 1.7%. It's like close to 2%. Like
It's
they
yes. Okay.
talk about how it's like the same number of redheads.
Yes. Okay. I think that's a perfect example. And
Yeah.
this is something that I wish people knew. And something that I think that in high school could be taught. You know,
Yeah.
you, how many redheads do you know? Okay, well, that's the same amount of people who are intersex. And I don't know. I feel like a high school would be an appropriate time for that. I don't know.
I think so. Yeah.
You're
I
learning
mean,
about all sorts of stuff, and plenty of high school kids are very educated in maybe not educated, but aware of of things. So,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think yeah, it should be put in there so people kind of know and then it does, normalize it for the kids like me that it's like, "Oh, I'm not just like a complete like freak or anomaly or whatever.
yes,
Like this is something that is real and and it's not like you have to go in depth with it, but it's like, yeah, it's not this simple two options. There's not just two options.
Yeah, I like that. I think that would be perfect. Okay, I kind of hinted to this, but what is something that what do you wish that more people would understand about intersex?
I mean that we're just like normal people.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like not that big of a deal. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's
Yes.
like it's we're like we're different, sure, but like that it's just like we're just normal people and like we can have normal relationships and that like I don't know, like it's not it doesn't have to be like this big scary thing, but I think
Yeah.
people are afraid of the unknown. People are afraid of the unknown, and so it's like if you don't know about it, it's easier to be afraid of it.
Yeah.
And that like it doesn't you can like do a little bit of your own research too. I think because and I think this goes back to again like of like trans people is like people are always just like so enamored with like anatomy then of like oh like I feel like people just sort of like want to ask questions like that and it's like well what's the difference like who
Who
cares
cares? Yeah.
like and like how I mean so again like college athlete like we all showered together like lots of people's bodies look very different no matter like what their chromosomes are or whatever it's like
Yeah.
there's no like one normal body that everyone looks the same everyone's bodies are so much different that it's like I think we just yeah it's like we're just like people too.
Yeah. As a cis woman, no one thankfully like asks me about my genitalia. Like,
Yeah.
but it's like, but if you're just outside of, or if you even are presenting outside of the norm, then it suddenly becomes a topic that people think, I don't know if they think it's appropriate or maybe it's like like curiosity, but it's just, it's so weird that suddenly someone's genitalia becomes something that is identifying to who they are as a person. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, everyone, we're all a lot more than that, you know? So why should someone who is trans or intersex or just, you know, gender nonconforming, why should their genitalia be such a significant part of who they are as a person?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
like why does it matter and why does it matter to you? It shouldn't matter. Like who
Yeah.
cares? We're all just people.
So we've talked a little bit about this, but with these pieces of legislation that are being passed, specifically regarding like bathrooms and sports for kids, how does that affect people who are intersex?
I mean, specifically like the bathroom thing, that and honestly, I mean, I guess even the sports to it affects us in a way that like if you're testing, especially like thinking of like more of like the more like adult sports or college sports or whatever, if you're testing for chromosomes, then that majorly affects us. And like some intersex people may not even know that they're intersex because like again, like especially like because some intersex people like are assigned male at birth, but then they, like so like it again, there's such a variety or like a variation of it.
Yeah,
So not every intersex person like looks like a girl or looks female.
yeah,
Um, but so in the sense of like being tested for chromosomes, it's like someone might not even know they have like a woman might not even know she has XY chromosomes if she's had a period her whole life and everything else has been normal, she
yeah.
may not even know. And so when it comes to athletes, and it's like these people can just be like told they can't compete anymore, and it's like that to me that makes absolutely no sense.
Because they're
Um,
getting chromosomal testing.
yeah, I mean,
Oh, okay.
well, at least what I have gathered or learned about like the IOC, like the International Olympic Committee, what
Uh-huh.
they're planning to do for testing is chromosome testing.
Okay.
So that directly affects intersex people.
Mm.
Um, but like typically I would think like if they did testing like and testing hormone levels, it
Yeah.
probably wouldn't because most of, I shouldn't say most of us, but like if you've had some sort of surgery, a lot of us tend to be on hormones. So like it would balance out our hormones. Like so if I got tested, I would not test high for testosterone because well, first
Mm.
of all, like again, like most intersex people, like your body isn't processing the testosterone in the way that it does for others. Although
Yeah.
again, I guess I don't know if you tested for that, if you would have high testosterone levels, but like it doesn't mean that you have huge muscles or whatever and you're
Yeah.
anything like that. Um, but yeah, so it's like I would test positive for XY chromosomes or whatever, but
Yeah.
like my hormone levels, I wouldn't test high for testosterone because first of all, I had my testicles removed and I take estrogen. I take a
Yeah.
hormone replacement. So like that whole thing. But then honestly, like all of these different things, it affects specifically like all women poorly.
Mm.
Um, it affects everyone. Like it affects anyone that like looks like a man to someone else. Like that is affecting that person, even if they're not intersex, even if they're not trans, all this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just like, and it's really putting females in the boxes, right? Like you need to look this way to be a female.
Yeah.
And it's just like, ridiculous. And who gets to decide that? Who's deciding what a woman should look like?
Yeah.
No one, like, right? If you're a woman, you're a woman and no one should have the right to like decide that for you and tell you you're not woman enough because of how you look
Mm.
or how you may be presenting um in any of those ways. So like the bathroom stuff is super harmful and like the thing that scares me about the International Olympic Committee stuff with like gender testing and all that kind of stuff is especially with athletics, it starts at the like the high level athletics, but everything trickles down and eventually trickles down to youth sports. And I think about this with like volleyball specifically. So volleyball used to be like side out scoring, which meant your team couldn't score a point unless your team was serving. And then eventually it became where now it's called rally scoring, where someone scores on every point. But it started at the high levels, and then all of a sudden you saw it in colleges. And then it would be like club volleyball. And this all happened while I was playing volleyball. So when I was in high school, it was side out scoring. But then when I would play club volleyball in the winter, it was rally scoring. And so it like
Huh.
trickled down where eventually now high school is everyone plays rally scoring. No one plays side out scoring anymore. But so that's like a simpler, like smaller example. But all of this testing stuff, if it sticks around, it eventually trickles down to college athletics, club
Mm.
athletics, high school athletics, and then whatever you call it, like pee-wee athletics or whatever. Like
Yeah, it's like, is my 5-year-old going to get a blood test now to prove that she can play girls soccer? Like, is that
exactly.
where we're headed? Like, yeah.
Is that where we're headed? And like again, like being someone who was in a competitive athlete for a while, like, and I tend to be a competitive person in that sense, but also
Mm.
like it's just a game. Like it, like to me, it's like
Yeah.
it's just a game. Like who, like not like nothing. It's just a game, and it like it just when people get so upset about it, especially when we think of kids it's like it's a game that
Yeah.
kids want to play, they want to have fun. And for me specifically, like if I was told I couldn't play volleyball because of it, like I don't know where my mental health would have gone because the
Mm.
volleyball was the place that I felt normal
Mm.
because there was other tall girls
Yeah.
and like that was just what I loved to do was play volleyball. And if I was told I couldn't play volleyball even at in the high school level, like to me, like that's those are still kids. And like I don't know what that would have done to me mentally. Like that would have
Yeah.
just I honestly don't know where I would be if I didn't have volleyball.
Yeah. I was a theater kid, so I did not play sports. And, and then I transitioned from theater to speech and debate. So just not an athletic person at any point in time. However, I mean, and also, I think I just thought of this for the first time. Like, debate was a very male dominated quote unquote sport, not an activity, or not a sport, an activity. And I, there are people who are smarter, who are able to think faster, who are able to spend the time to gather more evidence. Like, life is not fair. And I think that this like pursuit of, I mean, they say it's in pursuit of fairness. I don't think that that's reality. I think that there are probably well-intentioned people who are deceived by media talking points and political talking points who, do want girls to be able to play sports. However, I just, yeah, I don't think, I think it's okay if my kids grow up and learn that life isn't fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, also, but this is coming from someone who's not a sports person. But I do think that it's okay that, like, to your point, it's a game, and there's so many more lessons and good things that can come out of playing a sport than just being the one who happens to be like the fastest and the best. Like,
Yeah.
to your point, the mental health aspects of being able to play volleyball is just being able to play the game does have significant mental health aspects to it. Being able to go outside and get exercise, those are good things for kids to do. And kids don't care. Like, in my experience, like,
Yeah.
these kids don't care. They just want to play. Like,
Yeah, they want to play, they want to be with their friends, be in community, feel like they belong to something, right? Like
yeah,
that I felt like I belonged was in volleyball. And like I've um heard this like analogy basically, especially because it's like the fight is for like women's sports, right? But it's like we think of people like Michael Phelps, where it's like he had these like genetic things with his body where his like torso was really long and like
yeah,
all different things, and that's what made him so good is all these like differences with him. And it's like, so what, like, why is it okay for men to have these like physical differences or
yes,
whatever? Like, and they're elite athletes. It's like, why is that any more fair than
yeah.
someone
You have
else?
people who run at higher altitudes regularly. Like, it doesn't,
Yeah.
again, not a sports person, but I've heard that's a thing, right?
Well, and there, I mean, and the other thing that I have learned is that there have already been things in place for like trans athletes where it's like you have to be on like a hormone replacement and like you have to have
Yeah,
certain things that you're doing in order to compete in the women's category. So it's not like they're just saying like, oh, they can just compete however. There were still things, but
yeah,
to completely say like they're not allowed at all is just like doesn't make any sense at all because
yeah,
when you're getting to that level too, it's like as many genetic advantages as Michael Phelps he had to work his butt off to be that elite. He didn't just show up at the pool and be like, "Look at I've got a long torso. That means like I'm gonna win." Like he
yeah,
had still had to work really hard. Like I had to work really hard to get a scholarship to play volleyball. I had to work really hard to start. I wasn't just a starter because I was tall. Like I
yeah,
had to work hard, and when you get to those elite levels, people are having to work really hard and do all of these things in order to be able to play these sports. It's not just like a guarantee that because you're a man or whatever that you like that you're better at sports. I'm better at a lot of guys than volleyball. I will say that.
I love that. Um, and then I just want to clarify really quick for listeners. So when you were talking about the trans legislation that makes exceptions for intersex, that was in regards to gender affirming care, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's pieces of legislation that have these. I think they were okay. You might know more about this than me. They were executive orders. Is that
I think so, but I'm not
okay?
100% sure on that either. I just
Uh,
know that like the stuff that has been going around, they make exceptions for intersex people so they can still have these
Surgeries
correction
and
surgeries for their genitals.
that's so interesting. So they
Yeah.
basically have said, like, yeah, I think we said this earlier. So they've said that, if you are seeking gender, if a person or a child is seeking gender affirming care, I think at this point it's just children. If a child is seeking gender affirming care because they, are trans, then it is not allowed. And I think is the punishment on like sort of the parent or the doctor, or it's just illegal or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the thing is like the argument for that is like these kids are too young to consent, like they don't know what they're doing, but yet they're doing these non-consensual surgeries on infants and babies, right? Like they're not giving
Yeah.
consent either, and then they're growing up and being like, what, like, because they don't always turn out great either, right? And then it's like then they
Yeah.
can have these issues and they can be like things that can't be corrected later either, where if they
Yeah.
were just left alone and then they can make the decisions as they grew up, then
Yeah.
they can make those decisions that made more sense for them. And that's the big thing is like they talk about like consent or not, like young people not being able to know what they should or shouldn't be doing. And it's like, yeah, but then with intersex people, you're just like, oh yeah, like fix it as fast as you can, basically.
Yeah. You're literally operating on an infant, on a baby,
Yeah,
because you have an idea of what normal looks like and you have to get to that side of normal.
yeah,
Yeah, that is fascinating. I think it's interesting because we've zoomed out and we've seen like, okay, there's the sports aspect where you have the risk of this trickling down and really affecting kids if, say, they have to undergo testing in order to play sports. And then you've got the government aspect of these both bathroom orders and then the gender affirming care. And then there, to go back to that like medical aspect of people not even, doctors not even knowing what's going on here. So I just Googled because I was like, I can't believe they were giving you a pap smear for that long. Isn't it? And I double checked. A pap smear is actually like on your cervix, and you don't even have a cervix. It's like absolutely mind-blowing to me that they wouldn't even have like a conversation with you about, hey, like your anatomy is different, so maybe like even let's come to a risk benefit decision together of, is it worth it to do this test, is there a risk here? Instead, they were just like, oh, looks like a woman. We're going to do the woman test. Like, what?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, one of the things that I talk about a lot that we will talk about a lot in this podcast is sort of paternalism in medicine and this very top down, like, doctor knows best, patient wouldn't know, even though it is our own bodies. And in your case, even more so because you know your body way more than these health professionals even do because they're not educated about it. And yet they're the ones who are kind of like making decisions for you. Has that gotten better? I mean, I know you said that with your new gynecologist, she was like, why are you even getting a pap smear?
Yeah. Well, and then when she like asked me about that, I was like, yeah, it would be nice if like I didn't get asked about my period all the time. Like, can't that
Yeah.
be in there? And so like now it's in there so I don't get asked anymore because it's like, why do you have to ask me that? The answer is always never has happened. So
Yeah.
like it doesn't change. Um, so I mean, other than that, I don't I'm trying I haven't been to like any other doctor in a while,
Hmm.
thankfully. So like I'm trying to think if like I've ever been asked that or if it's like actually in like all of my charts or just like
Yeah.
there at the clinic. Um, but I mean the other interesting piece of it is like um I haven't in a little while, but I usually like donate blood regularly and they always
Mm.
ask like male or female and I just always put female and I'm like, I wonder why like this matters if you're male or
Yeah.
female because like what determines? Like I mean,
Yeah.
if it's XY chromosomes, then I should be checking male.
Yeah.
Um and like and then they ask like, "Oh, are you like on your period or anything?" And I'm always just like, "No." Like they don't ask a lot in it, but like
Yeah.
it's just or like, "Oh, have you been or could you be pregnant or whatever?" And I just answer
Yeah.
no to it. Like that to me that's not a big deal because it's again, it's like you're just donating blood. They're not necessarily like medical people per se.
Yeah.
But there's things like that that come up where I'm just like, I mean, I guess I'm just putting female, but like
Yeah.
if this is like what is this determining? Because maybe I shouldn't be putting that. I don't know. Like to me it doesn't matter what I mark on things, like
Yeah.
as long as like whatever you're using it for is like it makes sense, like it's aligned with like who I am. Because
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't even know why. I mean, if somebody needs a blood transfusion, I don't think they're gonna need
Yeah.
a same sex blood transfusion.
And I
Like,
don't know if maybe
that's so
that's just
wild.
how they determine the questions they ask you too.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe that's just, I don't
Oh,
know,
yeah,
but
maybe that's like their marker for if they're gonna ask if you're, oh, that's interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I mean, I'm sterile and I get asked if I'm pregnant, if I could possibly be pregnant all the time. And I've thought that too, where can you just put a note that like, it's not if if I am, there's gonna be an emergency. Like it's because this is not, yeah. It's very frustrating. I've been in several situations where I'm like, could you please read my chart before asking me all of these
Yeah.
questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do we go from here? What is sort of the information that people should know, and where can they go to find that information?
Yeah, one of my favorite resources is Interact. So it's the website is interactadvocates.org. And they have a lot of information about intersex. They do advocacy work and just have like the most accurate information and most like up to date information. And we can definitely make sure that's like in the show notes, that website, because that's I mean that's when I like I said, like I didn't hear the term intersex until I was in my 30s. When I
Hmm.
heard it I was like, started like googling it and looking it up, and that was one of the first places, and that's why I was like, is this me? And I was like reading all the things like the FAQs, and that's like when people have questions and they want to maybe ask questions that are a little too personal. If they
Hmm.
come across someone that all of a sudden they find out they're intersex, it's like go there first and look at the FAQs before you ask them personal questions, you know. Um, yeah, so that's my favorite and they have a Instagram platform and Facebook um page and like that kind of stuff too. So that's one of my favorite resources to share with people. And then just like if you can find other intersex people that are doing more of the educating
Hmm.
um, on platforms, then that's a great. I feel there's more and more advocates out there
Yeah.
that are doing more education. So just yeah, just look and find them. You'll find
Yeah.
them. And, I mean, if you go to like the Interact Instagram page, they they do like collaborations with other people, so you can probably find them easily just by going to their Instagram.
That's cool. Yeah, I follow an intersex person on TikTok. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but she shares a lot of, I mean, she identifies as a woman, and she shares a lot of that, like, health aspects. So I think for her, there's a little bit more of like a health aspect of it for her experience. And so she shares a lot about that. It's really helpful. I'm like, I'm always just so appreciative when someone takes something that is so can be very deeply personal. Like
Yeah.
we don't, no one has to go and share their personal life and stories and experiences like this, but she's just incredibly open and, yeah, and I really appreciate that. Okay, so I think, my takeaways are, people who are intersex, just as common as redheads. I know a handful of redheads, and people who are intersex may not even know it. To your point, so I think that that's something that we can all take away. This isn't something that is so rare and uncommon or even or scary at all. It's just a part of being human,
Yes.
and I think
Yeah.
that's beautiful. And then I think that we can all learn to be a little bit more accepting, especially in the don't not asking like super personal questions department. Thank you so much for asking all of the all of the questions I asked, but like I don't think you need to find out that someone's intersex and then immediately be like, so what kind of genitalia do you have?
Yeah.
Like that's probably not appropriate, and maybe think like, hey, would I ask this of a person who was not intersex before maybe asking a question that is not kind or appropriate to ask. Okay, so Michelle, where can people find you? And then I also want you to share a little bit more about like the work that you do, and maybe where people can reach out to you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm most active on Instagram, but if people want to find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, um, find me there. Michelle Vande Hey. I'm Michelle Vande Hey everywhere. And then I also have my When story, which is kind of like a TED Talk, but it's a story about when everything changed. And
Mm.
the funny thing is with I went into that experience with the intention of focusing on the death of my son,
Yeah.
and throughout the coaching realized I really needed to speak more about being intersex. And so you can find that on YouTube. It's on my YouTube channel as well, but then you can just like look up When stories.
Mm.
um and yeah, their YouTube channel continues to like grow with more people's stories and everything like that. um, so yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, the When story was what prompted me to reach out to you for this episode. So, and
Yeah.
that everybody should go and watch it. It's a fantastic. Yeah, it's just like a TED Talk. Um, just a great, beautiful watch. Moved me to tears. It's great, and it is so interesting when we have these multiple, sort of defining moments in our life. I think it's so interesting that you went into it to talk about your son, because that's what we talked about. That's how we met, was,
Yeah, right.
the shared loss, and then you came on the Morning Dove, and it's like there are and I think that also kind of speaks to like we are so much more than our stories, like
Mhm.
these stories are such defining moments for us, but we have so many of them through our life, and not all of them are traumatic. It's just, we are a beautiful fabric of so many experiences, and I loved that you shared that. I think it was very helpful. I think it's going to be very helpful for a lot of people. So thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you all for tuning in to this episode. You can follow us along on Instagram at determinants.pod. We will have episodes coming out weekly over the summer, and so please stay tuned for more info. If you have a story or something that you would like to share, you can email me at determinantspod@gmail.com. I hope you all have a beautiful and healthy day.